this will be officially part two. This is Sinatra, and Sinatra is a Ruby web application framework. It is very similar to Rails in that where Rails gives you a lot of stuff, and you'll definitely see that stuff later on. Um, Rails is very opinionated, comes with a lot of components already installed, and pretty much kind of tells you how to lay out and stuff all automatically. Sinatra doesn't do a lot of that. Sinatra makes you kind of write things out a bit more. And I'm hoping to use this as a tool to kind of help explain better some of what happens under the hood in Rails once we get to the land of Rails, so to speak. And let's get to it. Let's knock it out real quick. So I'm gonna go over to terminal here, and I've already CD'd to my root directory, and I'm gonna make a directory, and I'm gonna call that hello Sinatra. There we go. I'm gonna CD into that. Okay. And before I actually use Sinatra, I probably need to install it, right? So how do we install Sinatra? Now, one thing I don't like about their main website is that there isn't an obvious button that tells you how to install it. How to download? Do I download it? Do I install it? So shout out to whoever is maintaining this front page. I'm gonna put a you know a simple one-line instruction on how to install it. Now, because since I've been here before, I kind of know what the deal is. So I'm gonna go over to this other site called Ruby Gems and Sinatra. Now, I may have touched on what gems are in the Ruby lessons, but gems are, if I haven't, then I'll just go over that real quick again. So gems are chunks of Ruby code that do a thing, right? They're applications, right? That you can plug into, get to interact with each other, or plug into things like Rails and Sinatra to have those frameworks do bigger things. Okay, so Sinatra is a piece of software that sits out here that we can just download from Ruby Gems, and it tells us, it gives us the idea. Excuse me, copy. It gives us two different ways of installing it: a gem file or just install from the command line. So gem files, we'll get into gem files later on, and that's pretty cool. That's where all the gems live when you're building a Sinatra app or a Rails app. And right now we just install this from at the command line. So gem install Sinatra. Yay! Sinatra 2 installed. Okay, cool. So now I can create some files. So touch app.rb, and now I'm going to go into this image and open them up. Okay. Oh, you know what? Wait, I'm sorry. For reasons that may become apparent later on, I'm going to not use the terminal version of Vim. I'm going to use the GUI version of Vim, Mac Vim. Okay. So let me get that nice and centered on the screen here. Okay, cool. All right, groovy. And at the top here, we're going to say require Sinatra git slash do hello world int. Okay. All right. So now when I lose focus, when I change apps, that should automatically save. I don't know if you notice, but down here there's a little red that shows up. So see that little red means the file is not saved. But when I switch over to a different app, MacVim is configured to automatically save that file, and that's going to be useful later on. So okay, so that's that. We got that installed. We close that out. Okay, so now what? How do I run this sucker? Right? Um, do they give us any information here about code? Yay! It takes us to the code. All right. Okay. So look at that. That link takes us right to the code on GitHub, and it tells us, aha, how we can run it. Ha 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 ha. Ruby. All right. So we can say Ruby have RB, and now we've got what's it say here? Sinatra has taken the stage on 4567. That's the port for development with backup from Puma. Puma starting in single mode. Puma, what is Puma, right? So Puma is I'll show you what Puma is right real quick. Puma server. Puma, 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 Puma. Puma is a web server. Go to their website. Okay. Modern concurrent web server for Ruby. Yay! And this is really cool. Puma is a pretty cool server. There's a bunch of different application servers. There's Sin, there's Puma, there's WebRick. Um, I think it's like maybe one or two other ones. Did I say Thin? Did I mention Thin? Um, yeah. Anyway, so you can check this page out if you want to like find out some more about that. I won't get into that right now, but maybe we'll talk some more about the different kinds of app servers and their strengths and weaknesses. That'd be pretty cool to talk about. But not right now. So there we go. There it is. It's running and it's listening on this port, right? Localhost. Copy that. And we got the press Control C to stop if we want to stop it. So we're gonna go up here and plug this sucker in, and then we see our hello world. Yay! Okay. And this is what we get when we get to the very route, right? Very very first thing that we're getting, right? We're passing a get method here. Now that word is actually very important. That's a key word here. There's two important phrases dealing with web pages and data going backwards and forwards across the internet. There's get and post. Okay, so get is when you type something in the URL and something like google.com, right? Now, I type that in and it's going to go out to the internet and it's going to look for something. I'm asking the internet. I'm asking the browser to get the contents of the root page at this location, right? So I'm saying get, and then it goes out to that location to some machine out there on planet Earth that is designated to exist for Google.com, and then it's saying it's gonna say, okay, I have a GET request coming from somebody's laptop, right? So I need to pass them back what they're requesting, and then it displays this content. So very similar things happening here, almost the identical things happening here, right? Except we're running on localhost, where we're asking the server, send me this thing at this location, and it's going to send me this back. Now, this location is just the slash that we started off with. But let's see what happens when we put other things in there, right? So, obviously, when you're making web pages, everything isn't going to be on that first one slash, right? Now you have a different route. Okay, you're getting at this location of your name, right? And I'm going to go back and I want to try to reload this here, try to get this going. I want to say your name. Okay. but Sinatra doesn't know this ditty, right? So Sinatra's pretty cool because it tries to tell you, hey, I don't understand what's going on here. Try this instead. But in our case, this is pretty much identical to what we've got. We just got a string here, and changing that string is going to do the trick. What is going to do the trick is if we do the Control C. But before that, I want to kind of point this out too. That now this is here. So if you notice here, right, we've got your name. Oh yeah, this is good too because I can talk about error codes. So we tried to get your name. The very first one we got was slash, right, and that was successful. That gave us back hello world. And the slash was successful. Right, that's what the 200 means. This particular code means 200. There's a chart of all these. There's like a ton of different numbers. Like 200 is one that means successful. And then how many? I'm assuming this is time, milliseconds, and times it took to retrieve that information. That's really what the 11 is about, though. Here, the next one, we've got when we try to do your name, we got a 404, right? 404, not found, right? It doesn't understand it. Now we don't know why it doesn't understand it just yet, but when it got that 404, it decided to give us this a return, right? So it Sinatra routed us to this 404 PNG file, right? As kind of like a response to that. So let's do Control C and then start it up again, and then we're going to reload this page, and now it works, right? That's because every time you make a change, we have to stop the server and restart it, okay? So let's see. Now we talked about those two paths. Let's play around with some stuff. Let's do parameters. Let's talk about some parameters real quick. Okay, so now I've got another path, name, and I'm passing a parameter, right, first. And that parameter is then going to go down to this string here. And here's some interpolation, right? We're receiving this parameter. It's going to respond back. It's just going to print out what that parameter was that's passed. Now, you've seen parameters already. If you've been on the net for more than 5 days, you've seen parameters already. So let's try Google again. So let's say Sinatra. So now you see this little thing that shows up at the top right here after I put that Sinatra in the form and requested a response, posted a response request. So this is a parameter, right? Right. That Q probably stands for query or question, right? Question equals Sinatra, right? So when I did that in the form, I posted something, right? I sent a post request to the internet, to Google, and then Google did something in its database, right, with that parameter that sent to the form, and then gave me some data back, sent some data back. And within the string here, the URL string showed me what it is that the parameter was that was queried. So here we're going to what did we say? We said name. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to say name. Fonzo. Sinatra doesn't know this, did he? Oh yeah, that's right. Because we have to stop the server and restart it, right? Okay. So now let's try it. Now it does know that, did he? Okay, cool. Now, hopefully you can kind of see how this might be getting tiring with the whole like having to stop it and restart it every time you make a change. But there's a way around that. There is another chunk of code, another special thing, Ruby Gems, called Shotgun, right? Reloading Rack Developer Server. Okay. So, yeah, what's Rack? I haven't even talked about Rack yet. Sinatra is a rack application, and I'll get into rack a little bit more when I get into this section. So I talk about what's happening here, but basically you've got you have your server on one end, and you've got this thing called rack, and then you've got the request being made by your code, right? By your Sinatra code, right? And rack kind of sits in between the middle as an interface between the Sinatra framework and any server that exists that this stuff will be deployed onto, okay? So that that server can actually talk to the framework. So there's all different kinds of servers that exist out there, all different kinds of systems. You got different kinds of Unix systems. You got different kinds of Windows systems. All different kinds of servers that exist, and they all have to um, talk. All they have to do is know how to talk to rack, and then uh, that becomes like the interface, the intermediate, the middleware, the middle application that allows your code to just be written one way, right? One way, and be able to run on all those different systems. Okay. Before rack existed, there was a time before rack, before it existed, when Rails first came out. Before might have been before Sinatra existed, but definitely the early days of Rails when everyone had to like do certain tweaks and whatnot to run Rails on a particular server, and then rack came out to kind of like take care of all that. Now we don't even think about it; it just kind of like exists in the background. But anyway, so we got Shotgun. Um, Go to Shotgun. So I'm gonna do the same install thing, install on the command line, and paste that there. Clear all that out the way. Gem install Shotgun. Okay, so we run that. Yay. Okay, so so how do we use that right now? I know how to use it, but I want to help you understand how to navigate the documentation and stuff. So where did I go? I just clicked on home page here, and then that took me to um, what they have configured as the home page. And here we go. Shotgun and name a file, right? So we'll just say Shotgun app, right? Yay. Okay. Okay, so now Puma's starting again. Our application server is starting. Um, this time on a different port. So let's go back here. There we're going to just stick that right up in there. And aha, hello world, right? Okay, great. So we should still see your name, right? Oh, yeah, it's kind of small. Let me make that bigger. Your name, okay. And we should see name, uh, uh, Jakar. Hello, Jakar. Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. So all that works as expected, but let's make some changes now to our little application here, and hopefully we can see a little difference. So now I added another route, right? Another get route here, name, first and last, and age, and let's get that going in here. So first, Jakar, Sheridan, 120. Okay, something like that. Okay. So now your name is Jakar Sheridan. You are 120 years old, right? Okay, cool. So we see that these parameters are being passed. We see the interpolation is being handled, right? And they're just acting like variables in this string. Now, since this is Ruby, we can do things like actual calculations on the stuff that we pass through as well, right? So here is a little calculation that's happening. We see we got the x and the x and the y, and then those parameters are turned to floating points to float, right? So that's being turned into a float. This is being turned to a float, and then they're being multiplied to each other, right? So, and then we'll see the result in the string. So, look back here. I'm going to say multiply 2 by 20, 22, something like that. Okay, the result is 44, right? Yay! So we can see some calculations on that as well. So we saw the calculation just took place, but did you also notice that we didn't have to stop and reload the server? That's because Shotgun took care of that automatically behind the scenes, right? It's just automatically running everything. Okay, so I think, well, at least when I first heard about Shotgun years ago, there used to be a the negative part of it was that as you're dealing with more and more files, things just kind of like run slower because I have to load everything in order to to actually automatically load stuff. I don't know if that's still the case now, but you can definitely see that this is helps the workflow go by much faster than having to stop and do Control C each time you make a change, right? This is pretty small, but you can kind of see, you get the idea of making different routes and then doing actions on the code with parameters and whatnot. Um, when I go through the content in the next section, you will start talking about putting in whole chunks of HTML code, you know, and then then extracting that HTML code out into um, into views, right? Into template files, external HTML files that then have Ruby code run inside them, and then you begin to see like how this can be built out into like an actual web page, right? And we'll just kind of like grow and grow from there. But this is just like a quick short intro to Sinatra, right? And next up, I'll get a little bit more, a little bit more in depth, not too deep, but just enough to kind of get tasty. Because what I'll cover is enough to hopefully kind of like bring us into the introduction of Rails. Because I'll talk about template files, actually making the stuff we've seen here into more like a website, and then um, yeah, taking content and saving content to files, static files. Then from there, taking content from forms and saving that stuff into a database, right? We'll play around with some Postgres database stuff, and then from there, um, 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 talk about some SQL, right? Just some basic SQL stuff, and then from there talk about Active Record, right? Integrating Active Record into Sinatra. One cool thing about Sinatra is that you can integrate all the Rails components into Sinatra, right? So we'll talk about Active Record a little bit, and then we'll post snap on Heroku as well. I'll talk to you about Heroku later on, and then we'll go from there, and then that'll probably round out all the Sinatra stuff. Then we'll begin the Rails component. Okay, all right. So this was a quick intro to Sinatra, and then we'll go into the intermediate Sinatra discussion.